What's going on? Boys, today we are talking a bit about INTPs. I really don't like them. And I don't like them because they'll do everything in their power to come across a certain way, be it disciplined, that's a big one they try to present themselves as, intelligent, successful, wise, etc., while putting people they view as not these things down, while themselves being exactly not those things and refusing to do anything, anything at all, to move themselves in that direction. Because that substance, the substance of being these things they want to be viewed as, isn't what they're after. They are after the social validation of being perceived to be those things. There is always going to be at least one INTP in any group who talks nonstop about discipline, because the talking head they get all of their ideas from told them this buzzword is what a person should be. And that makes them insecure because they are the furthest thing from that. And because they don't have the constitution to accept that about themselves and try to figure out how to turn that into a positive or accept it and then work on it, they attack people they perceive to be not that while playing up the idea they are that. Of course, while not being that and doing nothing to get themselves closer to being that. It is inferior FE and nemesis TE. This is one of the reasons INFPs are so annoying. They're working with a similar axis here. They're dealing with inferior TE and nemesis FE. And both of these functions are operating on the social level. FE is obvious, but keep in mind TE is a social function. They want the validation and status of being perceived to be valuable within a community. And they're going to try to accomplish this by talking a lot. However, it's not really going to work very well. INTPs and INFPs, you might be wondering why so many people view you as dumb shit tools. Why isn't anyone recognizing me for these things, these attributes I clearly am not? It's because you're being controlled by your inferior and shadow functions. You aren't using them, they're using you. And unfortunately for you, and especially for everybody else because you won't shut the fuck up and stop being annoying, you have SE blind spot. You aren't aware of the degree to which people can see through you. People view you as tools because you don't even know the degree to which you are coming off as tools. You're talking a lot and taking these hardline positions because on some level you recognize that you aren't what you say you are. It's very easy for other people to see. You're transparent. You think you aren't transparent. You're an ostrich sticking its head in the sand. My favorite happens all the time, don't worry. If you've asked me this, don't worry, you aren't the only one by a long shot. My favorite is an INTP asking for advice about something, then receiving that advice, not liking it, so asking another person, and receiving the exact same advice, and again not liking it, so asking another person, all the while talking about the merits of how to accomplish this thing they are striving toward, self-improvement, and then never doing anything. It's not bad to be undisciplined. It's not bad to sleep past 5 a.m. It's not bad not to enrich oneself with fine literature and philosophy. Now, it's not bad to do those things, though it seems to get annoying quickly because the only reason people seem to be doing these things is so they can talk about them, not for these attributes merits in their own rights, but not doing them is fine. In fact, you might be able to figure something else out, because if you try to get into these things, what you're going, and you don't mean them, of course, what you're going to do is chain yourself to something that isn't you, and then it's going to take extra steps to get into something that suits you better. And you don't have to do anything. If you are, and maybe find a satisfaction in being nothing, that's fine too. Have the spine to accept that about yourself and enjoy it. But this talking nonstop and never doing anything thing is infuriating, particularly when you are trying to justify your own flimsy, unsubstantial ego by attacking people who are probably more self-actualized and better off than you are. It's an insufferable waste of time that turns out the same way every time. If you want to be something, there isn't a book you can read to be something. There isn't a motivational speech that you can hear to make you be something. You have to choose to be something or accept that you don't want to be something. It's just so much wasted air. And you pollute other people and their goals with your presence, right? Because these people can't just be alone. If they had it in them to be alone and become something on their own, they would be doing it. No, they have to attach themselves to groups of people, specifically so they can criticize them to try to feel better about themselves, again, while contributing nothing not only to the group but also to themselves. They're parasites, except parasites have the decency of getting something out of it. This all frustrates me so much for a few other reasons. One, it's because I think INTPs have the capacity to be one of the best types walking around. Our function stack is set up perfectly to cannibalize and incorporate other function stacks. SI tertiary, once trained, can internalize new skills on an instinctive level. TI and NE can figure out what is going on and how it works. It can feed things to SI. And inferior FE, you don't even need to develop these things yourself necessarily. You have the capacity to coax these instincts out of other people for you to eat. And you do see this. The highest level INTPs in history rarely look much like INTPs when they're acting. I mean, their functions are clear when you sit them down and talk to them, interview them, can get into their heads, but when it's action on the field time, they look nothing like INTPs. INTPs, we have this capacity in us, or we should anyway. The other thing that frustrates me is the degree to which you never see this seized upon. Statistically speaking, of the uncommon types, we are one of the more common, uncommon types. There are a bunch of us kicking around. But almost every INTP you meet is going to be a dumb shit loser whose biggest contribution to society is their ability to parrot things they've heard from other people. The highest most INTPs are ever going to achieve is being a shitty audio recorder. A thing that talks a lot about nothing with no substance and no spine. I mentioned in my last typology video the more than 5 INFJ women over the years who have come to me and wanted to talk about their deadbeat INTP fathers. One of the things that bothered me about that, not just the fact that it was an annoying experience, maybe a useful one because I learned a bit. For example, they all operated almost exactly the same way. Parenting is hard. This is scary, so I'm not going to do it anymore. Good luck. And then, after however many years, they read a book or they watch a podcast, they hear something that says, deadbeat dads are shitty. A real man is in their child's life. And then the INTP fathers try to come back, giving these speeches, and of course taking no responsibility for their actions, and then leaving again upon realizing their initial transgressions can't just be brushed under the rug. All those encounters were so frustrating, partially because I can see exactly how and why that would work. And it's especially frustrating because this is how I was when I was a teenager. All these things I've talked about in the last 11 minutes. I was that. And I am trying very hard not to be that. But if you are of a group, then you are going to be associated with others of that group. That's the other thing that's aggravating about INTPs. And that's the other thing, right? The arrogance of dominant TI. Maybe an INTP finds something that does work for them. Then they assume that thing must work for everybody. Shit, it must be 5 years now. If I did talk about it on this channel, then it would have been like 5 years ago. But I met an INTP girl in the wild while I was at university, and I was forcing myself to introduce myself to people. And it was weird because we identified each other as INTPs. But we were talking about what I was doing and why I was doing it, trying to force myself to build a social network, or at least the tools to build a social network, because at the time I thought I wasn't able to do it all alone. Maybe at the time I couldn't have. But her solution that she was so confident about and annoyed at me for making a face over was just go into a public place and start crying, and then people will come over and make you feel better. I have really cried in public twice, and neither time did anybody come to comfort me. In fact, the second time, someone asked me to leave because I was making people uncomfortable. The first time, of course, was when I was in my freshman year of college, and I was having dinner with a girl I met, and we started talking about our families, and my father came up, and I started crying loud in public. And she is just sitting there mortified, which is still one of my favorite memories. It's so uncomfortable. And that strategy, if you're a man, is so not how you develop a social circle. But of course, this INTP being a woman, there isn't another way to say that. Of course, she doesn't understand that. And we've talked about the INTP I had a thing with for a while. She couldn't understand why men liked pornography. To her, it was completely illogical. Because to her, it was, of course, completely illogical. She had zero libido. And the standard INTP and INFP2 doesn't have it in them to realize people's lives are different. Someone commented about this earlier, actually. That's one of the reasons I don't like people asking me for life advice. I don't like advice unless it's very specific, because life advice is something you need to figure out. Asking for perspective is one thing. Asking to be told what to do is another thing. A worse thing. Because you're going to receive directions that aren't suited to you, and maybe subconsciously you are absolving yourself if something goes wrong because you can say that you got the directions from somebody else. You again put it on another person, anyone but yourself. I just really don't like this type generally. And of course, in the comments section, you're going to get people saying they are too logical for this to happen to themselves. Someone with a fucking Death Note avatar in the 10th grade telling me that they have everything already figured out and everyone else is a stupid idiot. But we are going to wrap this one up here. I am very sick. I am ill of people and phonies. Oh god, fuck. Oh, you hear that? Jesus Christ, it's the phonies clogging up my sinuses. But that about rippity wraps this one up. I hope you enjoyed watching, as I certainly enjoyed making it. You don't even need to get anywhere. Trying is enough. Like if you enjoyed, because it helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't, because we do this shit sometimes. And comment your thoughts, 'cause I love hearing from you. I don't know what to ask here. If you want to talk about how much you dislike INTPs, let's hear it. But thanks again for watching, everybody. Really, we have a lot of fun on this channel. So much fun. In fact, you can put it in a teapot with some salt, some medical salt, of course, neti pots, and pour it through your sinuses to clean them out good and well. Really weird sensation, but I kinda dig it. It's a lot of fun. And that's so much for having this channel, and I look forward to doing this with you guys again in the future.